I underline cause and effect because that is the most significant part of the first paragraph that you wrote. Cause and effect certainly is the most essential. But in business, I think of it rather as implementing an effect because we want to make a change. So something in a situation is not what we want, and we want to go to something that is. That requires a change. The cause of what we have is what it is, but it doesn't change itself. We want to have a change like Dagny building the John Gold line. So the railroad needed to be built. The John Gold line needed to be built. She built it, then she ran a train. The project was building the John Gold line. The process was running the train. So in business, I think of it as the project flows to the process. Project to process. Cause and effect is project to process. And another example is when you're 6 months old, you observe adults walking around and you say to yourself, damn, I want to do that. And for the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, you watch intently, then you figure out how to lift yourself up out of on the playpen floor, and eventually you walk along the railings, but that's not good enough because those big people, they don't hold on to stuff. And maybe you see some toddlers learning to walk like you want to, so you get brave. And eventually you take your first step and you're into the process because learning to walk is the project. Walking is the process. Walking fast is experience at the process. Running is more process, but it's all learning is the project. Doing is the process. Making a business is a project. Running a business is a process. Changing any part of that running of the business is a project. So you coming out of sales and knowing the process was a great advantage. And the only thing missing is thinking about the process of changing the business as a project, because a project is doing something you haven't done before. Even if you have 85 projects, each one of them is somehow different, or it has to be done manually until you figure out how not to have to do it at all by making a machine doing it. And that's computerization. So essentializing, and that's really my favorite word, essentializing is what I'm doing here and how I want to get down to the bedrock of something. As far as cause and effect, Iran didn't have a definition of cause and effect, but a friend of mine came up with one, and I've revised it here. The cause of any given effect is found in the nature of the thing. The thing can't change itself, but something in the thing is either growing or making a change. So a rock, for instance, doesn't split or grow or change at all. But if water gets in between a crack and freezes, the rock can split. So water, ice, change of temperature can change the rock. If the rock is soft, a worm or an ant or a termite can dig in it, especially in wood. And the next thing I would say here is that essentializing in business school, it was inputs, process, outputs. Setting up the inputs is a project. Setting up the process is a project. Setting up the outputs is part of a project. And when the whole thing is working, it's a process. I don't know if that's going to help you. But I know the other thing that I learned in business is everything is counting and measuring. If you're looking at a project or looking at a process, you are counting and measuring everything. So not only to know what the thing is, what the inputs are, what the outputs are, but how many, how frequent, what are the relationships to each other? Everything comes down to counting and measuring. The success of humans is based on their ability, our ability to count and measure. So cause and effect, yes, absolutely the right idea from Ayn Rand. Translated to business, projects and process. That's what we do in business. And what in particular, in detail, in essentials do we do? We count and measure. And we act accordingly. That's all I have for this.